Good morning. It's Saturday, the 20th of July 2024. Civil disorder is breaking out in many parts of the country. I took part in anti-plantation mass migration protests in Carrickmacross, and the Gardai were more than good, understood our position, and we cooperated with their wishes. Now, there is now a situation developing, particularly in the Coolock area of Dublin, where violence is breaking out. Now, I need to deal with this in a constructive way. I've made videos about this before to see if I can help in any way. My own form is that I have my own work to do, lots of commitments, lots of things to be seen to and done, and have some of my objectives for my hobbies and creativity put to use while I still have my health. And people come to me all the time to write letters for them, to help them with various legal problems, and some of these legal problems which I resolved took a lot of effort. So overcoming corruption and criminality, no matter whether it's by professional people, the state or anything else, is hard work. Okay. Now, I read on the news this morning where 3 Gardaí were injured in Coolock, where they're trying to force in hundreds of migrants in there, all men. Now, this is criminal activity by our government. Our government is the one. Helen McEntee, a woman from Nobber, is forcing this. There's no doubt this is wrong, but we have to fight it in a particular way. We have to realise that we are up against the media, the World Economic Forum meeting at Davos, and all of these anti-people institutions. But we have to deal with it as best we can. And it was always the case that you stayed within the law. And we have to try and do that. Now, the first thing is, if 3 Gardaí were injured, somebody had to deliver the blows and the punches and all the rest that delivered that. If a vanguard is there, a 32-year-old lady, a mother of 2 children, and somebody hits her, what do you expect the male members of the force to do? Only come to her assistance. So that is not good. In the riots after the attempted murder of people in Parnell Square in Dublin, there was patrol cars burned. That's criminal damage. Now, in the centre in Coolock, the premises were set alight, and that's criminal damage. So the problem is that the wrongdoing here is so poignant and so obvious and so unjust that it brings out all types. It brings out me trying to do it the right way. It brings out hotheads trying to jump the gun. And many of the people who are doing this are probably former Sinn Féin supporters. And they see how Sinn Féin fooled them and how the Irish Independence Party appears to have fooled those who voted in a particular way. And I've been working very hard to try and point out what the reality is, that the politicians have a scheme going to continue with this mass migration, but not to be caught out. And I'm always trying to second guess them. So we have injured guards, and for me to give advice on how to defeat the guards when there's some of them injured is not fair to them. And also, if there's criminal damage, that is a criminal offence under the Criminal Damage Act. I think it's 1992, and it's an arrestable offence. The problem appears to be that a lot of people, hundreds, have done nothing wrong at all. And now I'm hearing that they are being beaten by the Gardai. And I see a post there on one of my last videos that there's a special unit of the Gardai not accountable to the Commissioner at all. It's accountable to someone from outside. Now, I had always given Drew Harris fair wind. The fact was the Garda Síochána was not fit to appoint its own commissioner. Not because there wasn't material available, but because the ones that are good at it cannot be identified. The Department of Justices are not capable of identifying commissioner material. The result is there's Garda sergeants walking around the streets who would make great commissioners, but they can't get up there. Now, the thing is, so what is the first thing. And bear in mind, this is one of my ways to try and deal with this. The first thing is there is the Department of Justice, the Commissioner of the Garda Síochána, the Garda Inspectorate, and the Garda Ombudsman Commission, the GSOC, Garda Síochána Ombudsman Commission. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to steer clear right for now to naming any particular guard or putting any Garda on the block. After all, millions have been spent educating the public on how to deal with all this. We've been preached at about domestic violence and everything else by these organisations, the Garda Inspectorate and all that. And yet it takes a farmer from Cavan with a few cows to try and explain to people what to do. And I have no doubt there are Gardai out there involved in this who are disgusted at what's going on if what they're saying is true. I wasn't up there. My experience of the few protests I was on was that the guards were grand. In one case, they came and asked who was the spokesman. And I think Herman Kelly wasn't there that day in Carrickmacross. And I explained to the guard there'll be no problem. He says, as long as I know there'll be no problem, we're all right. So that's the type of environment we would like to see. But that's not what we have. Now, I'll try and point out some bits of the law, and it is very difficult. But for now, all of those who feel aggrieved by this, the first thing is get your computer out and print off the forms. You can submit them online, but I never liked them. I always believe in written. So here's the form. Now we'll go through the form, and it gives you instructions on it. So now we look at the headings. Interpreter required. Well, if you speak English, there's no interpreter required. If you're from a country where there isn't English, you may need an interpreter. But it'll leave it a lot easier if you deal with it in English. Even though Irish is our first language, we have to be practical. Case reference and date of complaint and date of the form, that's for the GSOC staff. You don't have to worry about that. Previous complaint made. Did you ever make a complaint before? I never made a complaint, so it's yes or no. Did the Gardai try to resolve the complaint? Yes or no. It would appear that's not that relevant. Now, if you did make a complaint, give the station. Right? Give the station. Name and other identified details of the guard that dealt with. Now, here is my start off. What your complaint here is, they're saying that they're taking their numbers off their shoulders. Now, a Garda in uniform is a Garda wearing his cap. And in recent years, the lovely uniform they used to have, the blue serge or bull's wool as it was called, has been whittled down with their old stupid high-vis jackets and all that when there's not really traffic around. I'm not against them in a traffic situation. But to see Gardai in Croke Park and inside in the pitch wearing stupid high-vis jackets, that is wrong. That is some idiot of a super looking to show how nanny state he is, right? Or she is, as it was. So if you can't find the detail, then what you put down here is it is impossible to identify the Garda because they're not wearing their numbers. Now, there seems to be a kind of a half uniform, type of a combat type uniform. But in any event, when the Gardai interact with the public, they must have their cap on them or some headgear. If they have basic uniform, they must produce their identification if demanded. If they're detectives and declare to be detectives, they have to produce their identification card on demand. It's a small card. I don't think I have my credit card holder. It's like a little credit card holder. And the badge is on it. And it's signed by the commissioner who grants it at the time. So you could have a guard 25 years on the job and the commissioner could be gone long ago. Doesn't matter. It's still a proper identification card. Now, if these things cannot be got, but the complaint here is they're not wearing their shoulder numbers, and the rule is all uniform guard in the country have to have shoulder numbers. So you put down here, Gardai are avoiding wearing their identifying numbers. Now you got to be sure of that. Am I sure? I am not. I can't see. I can say that the bits of video footage I saw, there appears to be numbers up here. There definitely appear to be numbers up there, but others tell me there isn't, right? So get your facts right, get it right. And by right, go up and ask him, what's his name? What's his name and number? Each guard has a number. Could be like 873428 or something like that. It'll usually be It'll usually be 5 numbers or 6 numbers. Don't think they're at 7, and followed by a letter. That has a computer thing, so you could have the letter F or letter D or something at the end of it. Now, this is the number the guard has, his warrant number. When he joins the guards, he's given a number, and that number stays for good. That's different from the number up here on the thing. That's his district number. So if he's in the area of Kevin Street, he'll have A. That's the A district. If you see guards on O'Connell Street, that's I think that's the C district. Don't hold me on that, but anyway, Kevin Street is A. So if has A on it, he's in Kevin Street or Kilmainham, and then it'll be a number like 38 or 136. So that should be there. So if it's not there, this is the first point of complaint. Now, give contact details. You must give your proper details and give a mobile number. It's very handy. We have to be practical about this. Other contact number and an email address. It all helps. I like the printed form, but if you do a printed form, it must be either handed in personally and the name of the person who took it noted, or it has to be published, posted by registered post. No other way. If you post it in ordinary post, they'll dump it in the bin. Now, if you are making a complaint on behalf... Now, I have to say, they'll say, oh, we won't. I have enough experience of this with other departments. If you are making a complaint on behalf of a child, please state your name, relationship with the child. That probably shouldn't apply. Keep children out of it if you can. Who you want to complain about. So you'll have to say, I cannot identify the Gardai, but say the Gardai who were on duty at Coolock on such a road on the 18th of July 2024, 2 male Gardai, 2 female Gardai, I don't know their names, and that's it. Do your best to identify them. Don't be saying, I don't want to know. Don't try to lie. You're doing me and others a grave disservice if you tell lies. Don't do it. Make sure you know your facts. What happened? Exactly what did the Garda say or do that has made you complain? Now remember, in the heat of the moment, if there's a riot going on, the Gardaí will be given a certain amount of leeway. During the H-Block riots in 1981, they were given a bit. They couldn't stop the riot, and the Garda investigators at that time had to take that into account. Moreover, I wouldn't be surprised if the Gardaí are videoing all these events to try and catch wrongdoers. And they're no different in the H-Block if they resort to violence. I can't back you out there, but we can deal with this other problem that is being said to me, that uniformed Gardaí are coming up to people with no numbers on their shoulders and beating them. Now, they could be security men brought over from England, from the north. So if a civilian who's not a member of the Garda Síochána interferes with any person, that's a full-blooded assault. So you can make the case that you don't know who is who, and I'd put that down on the form. We believe there are other actors, not members of the Gardaí, involved in this, and they're applying physical force to members of the public. Understand? Now, I hope that's fairly clear. Now, it goes on, there's plenty of room for information. And the golden rule, folks, is write it out on an old piece of paper first, write a big long hullabaloo and cut it back, pare it down to the absolute necessary. What led to the incident? What led to the incident is don't come along and give a political, the converting and use and filling of such a centre, I don't know what the name of that place, at such a place, Coolock, by migrants. That's all. Do you believe there was a reason the Garda behaved this way? Put it in basically, yes, I believe they might not be Gardaí at all. That's the first thing. I don't believe they're actual Gardaí because they did not behave like Gardaí or whatever. And then you could say that you're complaining about people who are protesting but are not involved in any violence. So there you have that. Are there any witnesses? And this is very important. You should have 2 people with you to help do this and to make a witness statement and all. It's very simple, but I know why people don't want to do this. Please list any other evidence. Closed circuit television. Now, if you have a video, that's all very helpful. But videos and cameras can be doctored. So you'll be asked to state I mean, you can't come along and video a guard maybe hitting a fella and just show, oh, look at this, when the other fella's after kicking the shins off him and his colleague for 10 minutes before that. It has to be complete. Okay? Please describe the injuries and medical treatment. Now, this is very important. You must get the person who's injured to go to a doctor and get examined immediately. Maybe not that day, but certainly the next day. And that doctor must be someone who will make a written report when the time comes. That's very, very important. Now, having said that, if you're hit and you're pushed around, you may not have any marks. That's all right. If your complaint is outside the time limit, well, make sure it's not bloody outside the time limit. What time does it say here? Year ago, and I don't know what the time. Look at, you put it in a week later. Submission of complaint. It is a criminal offence to knowingly supply false information to GSOC. You may be prosecuted. Yeah, and you'll probably have to make a declaration on any statement. I hereby declare that this statement is true to the best of my knowledge and belief, and I make it known that if it's tendered in evidence, I will be liable to prosecution if I say in it anything that I know to be false or do not believe to be true. And that I think there was one or two prosecutions that are rare enough. That's it, you tell the truth. If you tell the truth, there's nothing to worry about. So definitely complete that. If you understand the warning ticket, do so. All above board. Use of the information. You must notify the Garda Síochána about all. We must notify the guards. Now I'll deal with that. They have to send that to the guards. So for now, I'm giving you information about non-specific Gardai. And it's the Garda Ombudsman Commission, 150 Abbey Street, Dublin, 1. And it's DO1FT73. It's all online there. I suggest you print it or you can submit it by email. Now, here is the important point. Many people may not be computer literate, so you may be asked to help them, or they may ask to help you, and you put in your complaint. Now, see what I'm at so far now. And I'll bet you this will stop it. I'd say this will stop it. I notice when I intervene, people start shaping themselves up. You're not mentioning a specific guard. If you are, make sure there's good evidence against them. Don't be petty about it. It's not an easy job. So, now we're putting in about the Gardaí General. And you could name, and here is a good idea. In the bit about who you name, put in Drew Harris, Commissioner of Garda Síochána, because he's ultimately responsible. And all lower officers of Deputy Commissioner, Assistant Commissioner, which is the highest. No, Deputy Commissioner, Assistant Commissioner, Commissioner for the Dublin Metropolitan Region. He's an Assistant Commissioner. You don't need to know his name. The Chief Superintendent for Coolock, the Superintendent in charge of Coolock. So name them. You may not know the name, say name not known. So there you have names. They're the ones in charge. They're the ones in charge. Now, have I made that relatively clear? I've no problem naming the high-ranking officers. I don't know whether they're doing good or not, and I have to be very careful. A lot of what I'm hearing might be false. But it's funny like that. It's funny. There seems to be a kind of a heavy gang business, but then if you have this, you're going to have that. So what we do now is we aim for the Commissioner, the Garda Ombudsman Commission, and don't forget the Guard Inspectors. How about 500 written reports delivered to them? Is that, I'll bet you we'll be lucky to get 2. People will do anything except what I say. It's a lovely way of going about it. We're not naming any particular guard. If you want to name a particular guard, there are procedures for that. That's up to you. You can read the whole thing. I can't. I'm not a lawyer. And I have to preface that I'm not responsible for the legal content of this. That's how you deal with a hypothetical situation where it could be down in Tumivara or Roscrea, where this trouble goes on. This was happening outside of the farm, the beef plants where farmers protested. It was no different. The Gardaí behaved as gentlemen. I was asked to go to advise the farmers. and another jackass came in and said I was wrong, that you're entitled to break all the laws you like and that nothing can be done. He believes in the natural law, do what you like. And this is what you're up against. So you're up against all this crack. Let's start to do it right. Let's bring about a situation where the Gardai will be identified. There's enough of them there. And let them, they're entitled to protect their own people. So, have I made that clear? Have I made that clear? Get those forms printed out. Do not put anything you cannot stand over. And get as many people as you can who are there. This should be part and parcel of going to these protests. This is that night. Land them into them. Land them into the Garda Inspectorate. She's paid to do the job, let her go and do it. And stop bloody pontificating about shagging climate change and LBGPQ and other out baloney. Land them into the Garda Ombudsman till he's not able to get, till he's up to his head, so that there's complaints all around here, and all you see when the photograph him is his eyes sticking up out of all the complaints. Send them to the Garda Commissioner. That's his job. I don't know if there's anybody else. Oh yes, there is one else. There is one else. Helen McEntee's department, the Department of Justice. 51 St Stephen's Green, Dublin 2. It's D02HK52. And you hand it in there. Go around and hand them in if you're in Dublin there. And take a bit of work. And wear a bit of shoes. There's nothing without a bit of work. And that's why I'm not as successful as I'd like to be. I simply cannot deal with the volume of work and look at the wider picture. Now, have I made that quite clear? This is a very good starting strategy. Of course, they'll come on here. You're no good. You don't want to do naming. You don't. Listen, the lad that's complaining, let him get and do this. And go down now and get the evidence. And my advice to the Garda Commissioner and all these officers that's down the line, see that your men have proper, and your women have proper identification. If they're detectives, see that they have their ID cards with them, their identification cards. Don't let anyone out there who hasn't their identification card in their possession. Right? How you do the rest is an operational matter. There are people paid hundreds and hundreds of thousands to do that. But a lot of what we're hearing might not be true. The overall complaint about them displacing the Irish population by a rogue Irish government is true. There is no doubt about that. But that doesn't mean that the organs of the state have to go and have to stop. I mean, I have to still deal with the Department of Agriculture. If I want to do a collection, I have to go into the guards to get a permit. So we have to live and let live that way. This is how you deal with it. This is the proper way. And we'll see you back for something else. Comment underneath. Let's get it going. If I could have my wish, it'd be that there be 100,000 written complaints stuck in the Ombudsman and the Inspectorate's office and in the Garda Commissioner's office that they can't get in. Try and have them that they won't be able to get in with the complaints all around. And if you can deliver them, you see, you won't be paying. Now, the problem is, if you put them in by registered post, they'll only be received if they're delivered by registered post. So that's €8. So that's only making up on post. But you could put 25 in the one envelope unregistered. I can't tell you any more than that. Seems as simple as pie to me. I don't know any reason, and I don't know why any Garda should be upset about it. Go and do the thing right, and most of them will. And if there is an odd bully Garda, and that could happen. Well, it's time to sort them out and tell them straight, get off the case. Get off the case. That's it. Good luck. We'll see you back for something else, and comment underneath, and keep your comments logical. I deleted one because it was vulgar. It was obscene. The words used were not fit for a program like this. I don't know I know who he was, but it's a pity, like. But please don't use obscenities, and please make it logical. And this is one of the big problems. A lot of Irish people cannot write a blooming sentence, and all that was spent on education. They can't write a sentence. It's blah, 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 and no one has a clue. And if you're criticising someone, say who it is. Good luck. Thank you very much. Bye.